My sister abandoned my son and me at the tram stop, sneering that we were too slow to keep up. They thought they ruined our trip. Instead, I made one phone call, and their cruelty became the VIP ticket to the best day of our lives. This is where the story truly begins, and you won't want to miss what happens. Make sure you're subscribed to see it through to the end. We're always curious. Where in the world are you all watching from today? Let us know in the comments. The humidity in Florida at 9 in the morning is a physical weight, a heavy, wet blanket that settles over your skin and refuses to let go. I was already sweating, my shirt clinging uncomfortably to my back, as I adjusted the strap of the heavy cooler digging into my shoulder. My 8-year-old son, Leo, was trotting beside me, his little legs working double time to keep up with my frantic pace. He was clutching his sunscreen-slicked hand in mine, his other hand gripping a map of the park we hadn't even entered yet. "Are we gonna miss it, Mom?" he asked, his voice laced with the high-pitched anxiety that only a child fearing exclusion can produce. Auntie Jo said the tram leaves at 9:15 exactly. "We're going to make it, Leo. Just keep moving," I said, though my breath was coming in short, sharp gasps. We were running across the expanse of the Villain parking lot, aptly named, considering how this morning was going, toward the tram station that ferried guests to the main entrance of Adventure World. We were late. Not by an hour, not by 30 minutes, but by exactly 4 minutes. And we were late for a reason that was entirely out of my control. My parents, both in their early 70s, had needed help getting settled at the hotel drop-off. My father had forgotten his heart medication in his checked bag, and my mother, flustered and anxious in the heat, had needed someone to calm her down and locate the pill organizer. My sister, Josephine, and her husband, James, hadn't stayed to help. They had peeled out of the hotel driveway in their rented luxury SUV the second the bags were on the curb, shouting that they needed to secure the perimeter at the park entrance for the family photo. "Secure the perimeter," I muttered to myself, dodging a stray stroller. It was military terminology for "we want to be first in line for churros." We rounded the corner of the concrete barrier, and my heart sank. The tram was there. It was a massive, articulate beast of a vehicle, painted in bright, cheerful primary colors that mocked my current stress levels. The engine was idling, a low, rhythmic grumble. The conductor was already walking down the length of the cars, checking the safety chains. But what stopped me cold wasn't the machinery. It was the sight of my family. They were sitting in the third car from the back. Josephine was unmistakable, even from 50 yards away. She was wearing a perfectly coordinated outfit, cream linen shorts and a breezy, expensive floral blouse that somehow repelled sweat, and a wide-brimmed hat that probably cost more than my car payment. She was busy arranging her 2 children, my nieces, for a selfie. James sat next to her, looking at his watch with a scowl that deepened the etched lines around his mouth. "Wait," I yelled, waving my free arm. "Wait for us." The conductor looked up, his hand hovering over the release button. He saw me running. He hesitated. I saw James nudge Josephine. She looked up, her oversized sunglasses reflecting the harsh sunlight. She saw me. She saw Leo, red-faced and panting, his little chest heaving. For a split second, I expected her to wave back, to signal the conductor, to scoot over and make room on the bench that clearly had space for 2 more people. That's what families do. That's what sisters do. Instead, she checked her wrist, an exaggerated, theatrical motion meant to be seen from a distance, and then shook her head. She turned to the conductor, said something I couldn't hear over the engine noise, and pointed emphatically at her wrist. The conductor looked conflicted. He looked at them, then back at me, still 20 yards out. "Please," I shouted again, my lungs burning. James leaned out of the row. He cupped his hands around his mouth. "Too late, Nance. Schedule is tight." And then, Josephine did something that froze the blood in my veins, despite the 90-degree heat. She reached into her bag, pulled out her massive tote, and placed it squarely on the empty seat next to her. Then she instructed her oldest daughter to put her feet up on the bench across from them. They were physically blocking the row. As we reached the edge of the boarding platform, gasping for air, the conductor blew his whistle. The safety bar clicked into place with a sound like a prison lock. "Ma'am, I can't let you board once the whistle blows," the conductor said, looking apologetic but firm. "Safety regulations." "But my family is right there," I wheezed, pointing. "There are seats." Why said the seats are taken for equipment, the conductor shrugged. The tram lurched forward. As it pulled away, rolling slowly past us, I locked eyes with Josephine. She didn't look guilty. She didn't look sad. She lowered her sunglasses just enough for me to see her eyes, and she mouthed the words, clear as day, "You should have been faster." James laughed. I saw him laugh. It was a deep, belly-shaking chuckle as he leaned back, putting his arm around my sister. "Mom," Leo whispered, his voice trembling, "they left us." I watched the tram shrink into the distance, carrying the people who were supposed to be my support system, the people I had spent thousands of dollars to join on this trip of a lifetime. "Yeah, baby," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "They left us." The rejection wasn't just rude, it was a declaration of war. Seeing my son's face crumble wasn't just painful, it was the moment I realized they weren't family anymore, they were competition. The silence left in the wake of the departing tram was deafening. It was filled only by the distant screams of riders on the roller coasters we weren't on and the buzzing of cicadas in the nearby palms. I dropped the cooler on the asphalt. My shoulders screamed in protest, the strap having left a red welt against my skin. Leo stood next to it, kicking at a loose pebble with his sneaker. He looked smaller than usual, his shoulders slumped in defeat. He had been talking about riding the Titan's Fury coaster with his cousins for 3 months. He had memorized the height requirements. He had watched POV videos on YouTube every night before bed. "When is the next one?" Leo asked quietly, not looking up. I looked at the digital sign posted near the tram stop. The bright red LEDs flickered ominously. "Next tram, 20 minutes." 20 minutes standing in an unshaded parking lot in the Florida summer. By the time we got to the gate, got through security, and scanned our tickets, we would be 45 minutes behind schedule. In the world of theme parks, specifically this theme park which was notorious for its crowds, 45 minutes was the difference between a 20-minute wait and a 2-hour purgatory. 20 minutes, buddy, I said, trying to infuse my voice with a cheerfulness I didn't feel. I reached into the cooler and pulled out a water bottle. "Here, drink, we need to stay hydrated." He took the bottle but didn't open it. Why didn't Auntie Jo save us a seat? There was room. I saw the empty spot next to the bag. "I don't know, Leo," I lied. I knew exactly why. Maybe they didn't see it that way. "Uncle James saw us," Leo insisted, his voice cracking. "He looked right at me. He laughed, Mom." That broke me a little. You can be mean to me. I'm an adult. I can take the passive-aggressive jabs and the snide comments about my life choices. But when you target my child, when you make an 8-year-old boy feel like he's luggage you decided not to check, that activates a primal part of the brain that bypasses logic and goes straight to defense. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, shielding the screen from the glare. It was a text from the family group chat, titled Fun in the Sun 2024. "Josephine, so sorry we couldn't hold the tram. Driver was super strict. We're heading straight to Galaxy Spin. Lines are already building up. Try to catch up if you can, but don't rush on our account. We might grab lunch early at the grotto. James, yeah, snooze you lose, Nancy. Lol, see you in a few hours." I stared at the lol. That little acronym was doing a lot of heavy lifting for a grown man mocking a single mother and her child. They weren't sorry, they were delighted. This was part of Josephine's game. She loved to be the alpha mom, the one who had the itinerary down to the second, the one who successfully wrangled the chaos. By making me late, she solidified her narrative. Nancy is a mess. Nancy can't keep up. Nancy is the disorganized younger sister who needs to be managed, or better yet, left behind so she doesn't drag the winners down. I felt tears prickling the corners of my eyes, hot and frustrating. I wiped them away angrily. I looked at Leo, who was now sitting on the curb, his head in his hands. "I just wanted to ride with everyone," he mumbled. I took a deep breath, inhaling the scent of exhaust and sunscreen. I looked at the towering spires of the castle visible over the tree line. I looked at the massive steel tracks of the coasters looping into the sky. My sister saw this place as a backdrop for her Instagram stories. She saw it as a status symbol, a place to be seen. But she had forgotten one crucial thing. I didn't just visit this place. I didn't just buy a ticket like a tourist. I unlocked my phone and navigated away from the toxic group chat. I opened my contacts list and scrolled past Mom and Dad, past the pediatrician, past the emergency contacts. I scrolled down to the D section. My thumb hovered over it. Name, David, Director of Ops. Josephine thought she was the queen of this kingdom because she bought the platinum package and had a laminate itinerary. She didn't realize that the steel beams holding up the very coaster she was rushing toward, the Galaxy Spin, were there because I signed off on the load-bearing calculations 3 years ago. She didn't know that the safety protocols keeping her children safe on the Titan's Fury were written in a binder that sat on my desk in Chicago. I tapped the message icon. "Hey David, long time. I'm currently stranded in the villain lot with my son. Any chance you're around today?" I hit send. I looked down at Leo. "Hey," I said, my voice stronger now. "Stand up, kiddo, brush off your shorts." "Why?" he asked, miserable. "We have to wait." "No," I said, a small, dangerous smile touching my lips as 3 little dots appeared on my screen, indicating David was typing. "We definitely don't have to wait." To understand why my sister leaving me in a parking lot was not just an annoyance but a calculated strike, you have to understand Josephine. Josephine is 3 years older than me, and for 34 years she has been running a race that I never agreed to enter. Growing up, everything was a competition she rigged to win. If I got an A-, she reminded our parents she got an A+. If I made the varsity team, she became the captain of the cheer squad and accidentally scheduled practice during my games so our parents had to choose who to watch. Usually, they chose her. She was louder, shinier, more demanding. I went the other way. I became quiet. I became studious. I went into structural engineering because I liked things that made sense. I liked physics. Gravity doesn't care if you're popular. Tension and compression don't care if your husband drives a BMW. The math either works or the bridge falls down. Josephine became a brand. She calls herself a lifestyle curator. In reality, she married James, a man who inherited a mid-sized logistics company and has never heard the word no in his life. Together, they built a life that looks immaculate on the internet and feels like a cold freezer in person. When our parents announced they wanted to pay for this massive family reunion trip to Adventure World for their 50th anniversary, Josephine immediately seized control. She created the spreadsheets. She booked the hotel, making sure her family got the suite with the balcony, while Leo and I got the room facing the dumpster. She planned the meals. And she made it very clear, in subtle, biting ways, that Leo and I were charity cases. "I know things are tight for you since the divorce, Nancy," she had said loudly at Thanksgiving, in front of everyone. "So James and I decided we'll cover the extra baggage fees for you. We don't want you to worry about pennies." It sounded nice. It was meant to sound nice. But the look in her eyes said, "You are the poor relation. Remember your place." I make a good living. I'm a senior structural engineer at a top firm. I specialize in dynamic loads, specifically amusement rides. I'm not poor, but I don't wear my money. I don't drive a car that screams, "Look at me." And because I'm a single mom who prioritizes my son's college fund over designer handbags, Josephine treats me like I'm one paycheck away from a shelter. The antagonist isn't just a person, it's the dynamic. It's James, who echoes everything Josephine says, amplifying her cruelty. James, who once asked me at a birthday party if I was lonely without a man to handle the heavy lifting, then laughed and patted my head like I was a golden retriever. He was a man who measured worth by the size of a watch face. Today, he was wearing a diving watch designed for depths he would never visit, likely costing more than my entire cooling system at home. Back in the parking lot, the sun was getting higher. The heat waves were shimmering off the blacktop. My phone pinged. David, Nancy, the saved my ass on the retractor brake alignment Nancy. I smiled, me the very same. David, I'm in the control tower. Stay exactly where you are. Do not get on the tram. Give me 5 minutes. Who are you texting? Leo asked, wiping sweat from his forehead. Is it Grandma? No, I said, it's a friend. Is he going to help us get on the next tram? Better, I said. While we waited, I thought about the group chat. I scrolled up to see the itinerary Josephine had posted this morning. 9:30 a.m. Galaxy Spin, Fast Pass reserved for Joe, James, girls only sorry Nancy, they were sold out. You and Leo can do the teacups. 11:00 a.m. Titans Fury, adults only Nancy, can you watch the kids? Thanks. 1:00 p.m. lunch at the grotto, reservation for 6. Nancy, we figured you and Leo would want to grab hot dogs to save money, so we didn't book you a seat. I had read that itinerary last night and cried in the bathroom so Leo wouldn't hear me. I had planned to just suck it up. I planned to eat my hot dog on a bench and smile for the sake of my parents. I planned to be the doormat because I didn't want to ruin Mom and Dad's anniversary. But looking at that empty tram track, remembering James's laugh, remembering Josephine blocking the seat, something in me snapped. The steel spine I used to hold up roller coasters suddenly straightened in my own back. They wanted me to be the failure. They wanted me to be the background character in the Josephine show. A white SUV with the park logo, Adventure World Operations, emblazoned on the side came tearing around the corner of the parking lot, bypassing the tram lanes entirely. It had amber lights flashing on the roof. It screeched to a halt right in front of us. The dust hadn't even settled before the driver's side door flew open. David stepped out. He looked older than when I last saw him, more gray in the beard, a little heavier, but he wore the pristine white shirt and gold name tag of the park director. He was grinning from ear to ear. Nancy, he boomed, ignoring the bewildered looks of the parking attendants. He walked over and wrapped me in a bear hug that smelled of expensive cologne and air conditioning. I didn't know you were coming. Why didn't you tell me? I would have rolled out the red carpet. It was a last-minute family thing, I said, pulling back and smiling. It's complicated. David looked at Leo, then at the lonely cooler, then back at me. He's a sharp guy. He manages a park with 30,000 daily visitors. He knows what a stranded guest looks like. Where's the rest of the clan? He asked, his eyes narrowing slightly. They took the tram, I said, keeping my voice light. They were in a rush, didn't want to wait for us. David's eyebrows shot up. They left you here. They have a schedule to keep, I said. They're hitting Galaxy Spin first. David let out a low whistle. Galaxy Spin? The queue is already 90 minutes. One of the loading tracks is down for maintenance. He looked at me, a mischievous glint forming in his eyes. You designed the braking system on that ride, Nancy. You shouldn't be waiting in line for it, and you definitely shouldn't be waiting for a tram. He walked around to the passenger side of his SUV and opened the door. The blast of Arctic air conditioning that escaped was the most beautiful thing I had ever felt. Hop in, David said. Leo, right? Do you like VIP entrances? Leo's eyes went wide. What's a VIP entrance? David winked. It means we go through the back door. It means we don't wait for trams. And it means... He reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 lanyards. They were thick, gold plastic cards that glittered in the sun. Ultimate access, no restrictions. It means you don't wait for anything. I looked at the lanyards. I looked at the text message from Josephine telling me to eat hot dogs. David, I said, climbing into the leather seat of the SUV, I think we're going to have a great day. The transition from the sweltering, asphalt misery of the villain parking lot to the air-conditioned sanctuary of David's SUV was the first shift in the day's dynamic. But the real turning point came when we didn't drive toward the main gates. David steered the vehicle down a service road marked authorized personnel only. We bypassed the thousands of people streaming toward security, bypassed the bag check lines that looked like a chaotic ant farm, and slipped through an automated gate that recognized David's vehicle tag. "So," David said, glancing in the rearview mirror at Leo, "your mom tells me you like coasters. You know she helped build half the stuff in this park, right?" Leo looked at me, eyes wide. "I knew you drew pictures of bridges, Mom. I didn't know you built rides." "Your mom is being modest," David chuckled. "She did the stress analysis on the main loop of Titan's Fury. Without her, that ride would just be a very expensive piece of modern art. It wouldn't run." I felt a flush of pride that had nothing to do with the heat. In Josephine's version of the world, my job was boring. It was math stuff. She told people I worked in construction, leaving out the engineering degree and the licensure, making it sound like I poured concrete for driveways. To hear David validate my career in front of my son was a balm I didn't know I needed. We pulled up behind a nondescript beige building. "This is Ops Center 1, David explained. "We're going in the back way." Inside, the hum of the park was replaced by the quiet buzz of servers and the low murmur of dispatchers talking over radios. David led us into his office, a glass-walled room overlooking the bank of monitors that showed every corner of the park. "Okay," David said, turning to his desk. He pulled open a drawer and retrieved a small, black device that looked like a pager. "This is a platinum pager. We usually reserve these for celebrities or Make-A-Wish kids. Today, it's for the lead engine, Ear and her son." He handed it to Leo. "If you want a snack, you press this button. If you want a ride, you press this one. But you won't need it much because I'm assigning you a shadow." David pressed a button on his desk phone. "Send Kevin in." A moment later, a young man in a pristine polo shirt and khaki shorts walked in. He looked to be about 22, with the eager, bright-eyed look of an employee gunning for a promotion. "Kevin, this is Nancy and Leo. They are VVIPs today," David said, emphasizing the extra V. "You are their escort. Wherever they want to go, you clear the path. Front of the line, backdoor access, reserved seating at shows, whatever they need." Kevin nodded enthusiastically. "You got it, boss. Nice to meet you, Nancy, Leo." "And Nancy," David said, his voice dropping lower, "I checked the system. Your sister's party scanned in at the main gate 20 minutes ago. Based on the RFID tags in their wristbands, they are currently in the queue for Galaxy Spin." He turned one of his monitors toward me. It showed a heat map of the park. A cluster of dots was stationary in the winding, snake-like line for the Galaxy Spin coaster. "The wait time is currently posting at 105 minutes, David said, a dry smile touching his lips. "And the AC in the queue building is struggling. It's about 85 degrees in that hallway." I looked at the screen. I could picture Josephine perfectly. She hated sweating. She hated standing still. And right now, she was trapped in a humid, crowded corridor with two restless kids and a husband who complained if his coffee was 2 degrees too cold. "Do you want to avoid them?" David asked. "I can send you to the other side of the park. Splash Mountain has 0 wait with the escort." I looked at Leo. He was holding the platinum pager like it was the crown jewels. Then I thought about the text message. "Snooze, you lose." "Actually," I said, a plan forming in my mind, a plan that wasn't about revenge, but about justice. Leo really wanted to ride Galaxy Spin. It was the first thing on his list. David's smile widened. He understood. "Kevin, take them to the Alpha Gate at Galaxy Spin. Direct access to the loading platform." "On it," Kevin said. As we walked out to a waiting golf cart, a stretch version with padded seats, I pulled out my phone. I didn't text the group chat. I didn't respond to the taunts. Instead, I opened the Find My Friends app that Josephine insisted we all use for safety. There they were. Their icons were practically vibrating with frustration in the middle of the zigzag line. I wasn't just a victim anymore. I was an engineer, and engineers know that the best way to test a structure is to apply pressure to its weakest point. Josephine's weakest point was her image, and I was about to crack it wide open. "Ready, Leo?" I asked as we climbed into the cart. "Yeah," he shouted. "Kevin," I said, settling back as the electric motor whirred to life. "Let's go see my sister." The Alpha Gate at Galaxy Spin is a nondescript metal door tucked away behind a fake rock formation near the ride's exit. Most people walk right past it, assuming it's a maintenance closet. Kevin swiped his badge and the door hissed open. We stepped from the blinding sunlight into the cool, dark industrial atmosphere of the loading dock. We weren't in the line. We were on the platform. The ride operators, spotting Kevin's uniform and our gold lanyards, immediately halted the loading process for row 1. "VIP coming through," the lead operator called out. The people in the regular line, the standby line, were held back behind the air gates. They watched with a mixture of curiosity and envy as Leo and I walked casually across the platform. We rode in the front row. The coaster was smooth, the G-forces pressing us into our seats as we corkscrewed through the dark, neon-lit indoor section before blasting out into the sunlight. Leo screamed with pure joy, his hands in the air. I laughed, the wind whipping my hair, feeling a lightness I hadn't felt in years. When the ride slowed and returned to the station, Kevin was waiting. "Do you want to go again, or are you good?" Leo looked at me breathless. "Can we, just one more time?" "Absolutely," Kevin said. "Stay in your seats." The operator announced over the PA system, "Clear for dispatch," and we were off again, bypassing the exit process entirely. It was on our way out, after the second ride, that the timing lined up perfectly. The exit ramp for the ride runs parallel to the Fast Pass merge point, which runs parallel to the main standby queue. It's a design choke point I had actually argued against in the blueprints years ago, but marketing wanted high visibility for the express lines to upsell customers. Today, that design flaw was my greatest asset. As walked down the exit ramp, flanked by Kevin, I heard a familiar, shrill voice. "This is ridiculous. We have a schedule. Why is they?" The line stopped. I stopped walking. I looked over the metal railing, down into the pit of the standby queue. About 20 feet away, separated by a mesh fence, was Josephine. She looked dismantled. Her expensive hat was crumpled in her hand. Her perfect blowout was frizzed by the humidity. There were sweat stains on her linen blouse. James was behind her, fanning himself with a park map, his face a dangerous shade of beet red. My nieces were sitting on the dirty concrete floor, whining that they were thirsty. They had moved maybe 30 feet in the hour since I last saw them. I stood there for a moment, just watching. Kevin paused respectfully, sensing the tension. Then Leo spotted them. "Auntie Joe," he chirped, waving his hands. "Uncle James." Josephine's head snapped up. She squinted against the gloom of the tunnel. When her eyes locked on us, her expression went through a rapid series of contortions: confusion, recognition, disbelief, and finally pure, unadulterated shock. "Nancy," she rasped. Her voice was hoarse. I smiled. I looked fresh. I had just reapplied my lip gloss in the VIP restroom. I was holding a bottle of chilled sparkling water that Kevin had handed me. "Hey guys," I called out, my voice echoing slightly off the concrete walls. "You're still here. I thought you'd be at lunch by now." James pushed past Josephine, gripping the railing. "How the hell are you on the exit ramp? We've been standing here for an hour and a half." "Oh, the tram ride was actually really quick once we got going," I said vaguely. "Leo and I just finished our second loop. It's a great ride, right? A little jerky in the second corkscrew, but the airtime is fantastic." "Second loop?" Josephine practically screeched. People in the line turned to stare at her. "We haven't even moved. How did you get in? Did you buy express passes? You said you couldn't afford them." "I didn't buy anything," I said honestly. I lifted the gold lanyard hanging around my neck. It caught the overhead fluorescent light, gleaming like a trophy. "We have a friend." Kevin stepped forward, looking official. Mrs. Miller, we need to keep the exit ramp clear for other VIP guests. Are you ready to head to the grotto? The grotto, James sputtered. We have reservations there at 1. We decided to go a bit earlier, I said. It's so hot out, we wanted some AC. Anyway, hang in there. The app says the wait is only. I checked my watch theatrically, mimicking Josephine's gesture from the morning. Another 50 minutes from this point. You'll get there. Nancy, wait, Josephine yelled, reaching a hand through the mesh fence. Her fingers grasped at the air. Get us in. If you have a pass, get us in. The girls are dying of heat. I looked at her hand, the hand that had placed a tote bag on a seat to block my son. I looked at James, the man who had laughed when the tram pulled away. I'd love to, Joe, I said, my voice dripping with false sympathy. But I think the conductor was right this morning. Safety regulations, strict limits. Nancy, she screamed as I turned away. Come on, Leo, I said, taking his hand. Kevin says they have those frozen lemonades you like at the VIP lounge. But Mom, Leo whispered as we walked away, leaving the shouts of my sister fading behind us. Couldn't we help them? I stopped and knelt down to look him in the eye. Leo, remember when they left us in the parking lot? Did they help us? He shook his head. We aren't being mean, I told him, though a part of me knew I was enjoying this too much. We are just enjoying our day. They chose their ride, now they have to wait for it. As we exited the building into the bright sunlight, my phone buzzed. Josephine, you little bitch. Come back here and get us in. Mom and Dad are waiting for us. James, don't think you're special, Nancy. You probably blew someone for those passes. Wait until I tell your dad what you're doing. I laughed out loud. It was a harsh sound, they were unraveling, and the best part, I hadn't even played my ace yet. The confrontation at Galaxy Spin was the spark, but the fire truly started to burn at lunch. After leaving the coaster, Kevin drove us across the park to the grotto. Now, the grotto has 2 sections. There is the main dining hall, which is essentially a glorified cafeteria disguised as an underwater cave. It's loud, crowded, and smells like fryer grease. That's where Josephine had made reservations. Then there is the summit, the private dining level located on the upper tier, overlooking the artificial lagoon. It has table service, cloth napkins, and soundproofing. When we arrived, I saw my parents sitting on a bench near the entrance of the main hall. They looked exhausted. My dad was wiping sweat from his bald spot with a handkerchief, and my mom was fanning herself with a brochure. They looked frail, and a pang of guilt hit me. They were the collateral damage in Josephine's game. Kevin, I said, can we stop? I hopped out of the cart and walked over to them. Mom, Dad. My mom looked up, relief washing over her face. Nancy, oh, thank goodness. We've been waiting for Josephine for 20 minutes. She texted that they're still stuck at that spinning ride. We're starving, and Dad's blood sugar is dropping. Where are you supposed to eat? I asked. Here, I think, Dad grumbled, but the line just to check in is out the door. I looked at the line. It was massive. Come with me, I said. We can't, Mom fretted. Jo has the reservation number on her phone. She said we have to wait for her to check in as a group. You don't need Jo, I said firmly. I waved at Kevin. He brought the cart around. Hop on, we're upgrading. 10 minutes later, my parents were seated in a plush velvet booth at the summit. A waiter had already brought Dad a glass of orange juice and a basket of artisan bread. The air conditioning was humming blissfully. This is nice, Mom said, looking around at the chandeliers. Is this expensive, Nancy? You know we're on a budget. It's taken care of, I said. Work perks. Just as our appetizers arrived, scallops for me, sliders for Leo, my phone started blowing up. Josephine had finally escaped the line and arrived at the restaurant downstairs. Josephine, where are you? We are at the host's stand. They say you aren't here. I replied, we're upstairs, in the summit. Mom and Dad were about to pass out from the heat, so I took them inside. Josephine, the summit. That's members only. How did you get in? Come down here right now. We are eating as a family. Me no, Dad needs to eat now. We have a table for 4, there's no room for you. You guys enjoy the buffet. I put the phone face down. 20 minutes later, the waiter approached our table. He looked uncomfortable. Ma'am, there's a woman downstairs, claiming to be your sister. She's demanding to come up. She's causing a bit of a scene. My dad frowned. Is that Joe? Why doesn't she just come up? She can't, sir, the waiter said gently. This area requires a specific pass. Let her up, I said to the waiter. But just her, and James, tell them the kids have to wait with the nanny or… Well, I guess they don't have a nanny. Tell them we only have 2 extra chairs. I wanted them to see this. When Josephine and James stormed into the private dining room, they looked like they had been dragged through a hedge backward. Josephine's makeup was running. James had a mustard stain on his shirt. What is the meaning of this? Josephine hissed, marching up to the table. She looked at the white tablecloths, the crystal glasses, the view of the lagoon. She looked at Mom and Dad, comfortable and happy. You stole our parents. I rescued them, I corrected, cutting into my scallop. You left them baking in the sun while you waited in a line you didn't need to wait in. We were waiting for you, James lied, pointing a finger at me. We held the tram, we held the line, and you just wandered off. James, my father said sharply. His voice was low, the tone he used when we were teenagers. Sit down, you're making a scene. We can't sit down, Dad, Josephine cried. They won't let us. They said we don't have the right pass. She glared at me with pure venom. Nancy thinks she's some kind of VIP because she flirted with a ride operator. Actually, I said, wiping my mouth with the linen napkin. I'm a VIP because I designed the safety brakes that kept you from flying off the track on Galaxy Spin this morning. And the ride operator is the director of operations. He's an old friend. James scoffed. Please, you're a mid-level contractor. Check the plaque, I said calmly. What? James asked. On the way out, check the brass plaque on the pillar of the Titan's Fury entrance, the one dedicating the ride to the engineering team. I took a sip of my iced tea. My name is second from the top. Josephine's eyes narrowed. She wasn't listening to the logic, she was calculating the social cost. She saw the other diners looking at them, the sweaty, frantic couple ruining the ambience. Fine, Josephine snapped. If you're so important, get us passes. We have Titan's Fury next. The wait is 3 hours. I am not standing in that line with the girls. I can't do that, Joe, I said. Why not? Because the passes are non-transferable, I lied smoothly. And frankly, after the stunt you pulled at the tram this morning, I don't want to. The table went silent. My mother gasped. What stunt? I looked at my parents. They didn't just leave us, Mom. There were seats on the tram. Josephine put her bag on the empty seat, and James told the driver to leave us. They laughed at Leo while he was running. That's a lie, Josephine shrieked. There was no room. Leo, I said softly, tell Grandma and Grandpa what happened. Leo looked at his grilled cheese sandwich. He looked at Josephine, who was glaring at him with a silent threat eye. Her eyes, then he looked at me. I nodded. Auntie Jo put her bag on the seat, Leo said, his voice small but clear. And Uncle James laughed and said, snooze you lose. I was scared we were lost. My father slowly put down his fork. He turned his gaze to James. My father is a retired union foreman. He is not a man who tolerates bullies. Is that true, James? Dad asked. James shifted his weight. It was a joke, Frank. We were just teaching them a lesson about punctuality. Nancy is always late. We were late, I interjected, because I was helping Dad find his heart medication, which you left on the curb. The silence that followed was heavier than the humid air outside. Get out, my father said to James. What? James blinked. Go downstairs, Dad said. Eat your buffet. I'm having lunch with my daughter, the one who actually helps me. Josephine looked like she had been slapped. Her control was shattering. She grabbed James's arm. Fine, stay here with her. But when you want to see the fireworks from the reserved viewing deck tonight, don't come crying to me. I have the tickets. She spun around and stormed out, James trailing behind her like a beaten dog. I watched them go. I felt a tremor in my hands, adrenaline, but also a profound sense of relief. I'm sorry, Mom, I said. I didn't want to cause a fight. You didn't, Mom said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. Eat your scallops, honey. But the war wasn't over. Josephine had mentioned the fireworks, and I knew that was her last stand. She would try to reclaim the narrative tonight, but she didn't know that David had one more surprise for us, and it was going to be the final nail in the coffin of her ego. Nightfall at Adventure World is a different kind of beast than the daytime. The oppressive sun retreats, replaced by millions of LEDs that trace the skeletons of the roller coasters against the black sky. The humidity breaks, leaving a breeze that carries the scent of funnel cake and ozone. It's magical, usually, but as we moved toward the center of the park for the fireworks finale, the atmosphere felt heavy with impending violence. Kevin, our faithful shadow, had received new instructions from David. We aren't going to the viewing deck, he had whispered to me as we finished a private meet and greet with the park mascots. Leo was currently holding a plush dragon the size of a toddler. We're going to the spire. The spire is the highest point of the central castle. It's not open to the public. It's a corporate suite used for investors and, apparently, structural engineers who save the day. We walked through the crowded thoroughfares, my parents flanking me like bodyguards. They were quiet. The lunch confrontation had rattled them. My father's jaw was set tight, a sign that he was thinking hard about the last 30 years of family dynamics. As we approached the castle, the crowds became a crushing wave of humanity. Ropes were up, blocking off the main plaza. Security guards were directing traffic. And there, at the primary checkpoint for the reserved viewing area, a roped-off section of concrete that looked only marginally less crowded than the main street, was Josephine. She was arguing with a young female usher. I could hear her voice over the ambient park music. I paid for the platinum package. This is the designated entrance. Look at the email. Josephine was shoving her phone in the girl's face. Ma'am, I understand, the usher was saying, looking terrified. But this section is at capacity. We can't let anyone else in for safety reasons. I don't care about safety, Josephine shrieked. I have tickets. My parents are supposed to be here. James was standing behind her, looking less like a supportive husband and more like a man realizing his lifeboat was leaking. Kevin steered our golf cart. Yes, we were still in the cart, parting the sea of pedestrians, right up to the checkpoint. The usher saw Kevin's uniform and the gold flag on our cart and immediately moved the velvet rope aside. Josephine froze. She watched as we rolled past her. Stop, she screamed. She lunged forward, grabbing the side of the cart. You're doing this. You're telling them to block me. Kevin stopped the cart abruptly to avoid dragging her. Josephine let go, I said calmly, staying seated. No, she was hysterical now. The facade of the perfect influencer mom was gone. Her hair was wild, her eyes manic. You stole my parents, you stole my day, and now you're stealing my fireworks spot. This isn't your spot, I said. You have tickets for Section B that's back there, behind the churro cart. I have platinum, she yelled, turning to our parents. Mom, Dad, tell her, I organized this whole trip. I booked the VIP experience. We paid $5,000 for this package. My father looked at her. He looked at the frantic usher. He looked at the hundreds of strangers staring at our family drama. 5,000. ND, my father asked, his voice cutting through the noise. Joe, you told us the package cost 12,000. You said that's why you needed the check up front. The air seemed to leave the immediate vicinity. Even James looked up, startled. Well, there were taxes, Josephine stammered, her grip on the cart loosening, and booking fees and the hotel. I saw an opening. I hadn't planned to do this, but the math wasn't adding up, and I am an engineer. I pulled out my phone. I still had the text thread open with David. Earlier, out of curiosity, I had asked him to check the booking reference Josephine had posted in the group chat, just to see if we could upgrade her tickets to get her off my back. I had the screenshot of the file. "Kevin," I said, "can you hold this for a second?" I handed Kevin the plush dragon. I stepped out of the cart. I walked up to Josephine, who was trembling. "You didn't pay $12,000, Joe," I said, my voice steady, loud enough for James to hear. "I checked the booking reference. You bought the Silver Saver group rate. Total cost for 6 people, including the hotel and park hopper passes, $3,400. James dropped his park map. "What?" "She skimmed it," I said, looking directly at my father. "Mom and Dad gave her 12 grand. She spent 3. She pocketed $9,000 and then left me and Leo in the parking lot because she didn't want to pay for an extra seat on the express tram." "That's a lie," Josephine screamed, lunging at me. "She's lying, she's jealous." "It's in the system, Joe," I shouted back, finally letting my anger surface. "It's right there. You made Mom and Dad fly economy while you sat in first class with James, remember? You said it was points. It wasn't points. You used their money to upgrade yourself and treated them like cattle." My mother put her hand over her mouth. Tears were streaming down her face. Not tears of sadness, but of heartbreak. The realization that her golden child viewed her as an ATM. "James," Josephine pleaded, turning to her husband. Tell them it was for the account, the business." James took a step back. He looked at his wife with a mixture of horror and realization. "You told me your parents paid for our flights as a gift. You told me the company was having a liquidity issue and we needed to save cash." "We did," she cried. "You stole from my parents," James said, his voice flat. "To buy, what? That bag." He pointed at the designer tote on her shoulder, the weapon she had used against Leo this morning. "It's fake," Josephine wailed, cracking completely. "It's a knockoff, everything is fake. We're broke, James, we're broke." The revelation hung in the air, raw and ugly. The perfect life, the perfect trip, the perfect sister, it was all a facade built on debt and theft. David appeared out of the crowd then, flanked by 2 large security officers. He didn't look like a friendly old colleague anymore. He looked like the director of operations dealing with a disturbance. "Is there a problem here, Ms. Miller?" David asked me, ignoring Josephine entirely. I looked at my sister. She was sobbing, standing in the dirt, surrounded by the wreckage of her own lies. She looked small. "No problem, David," I said softly. "Just a misunderstanding about ticket prices." "Right," David said. He turned to the security guards. "Please escort this party to the exit. Their tickets have been revoked for disorderly conduct and attempted breach of a secure area." "No," Josephine gasped. "You can't, the fireworks." "You missed the tram, Joe," I said, repeating her words from this morning. "Snooze, you lose." My father didn't say a word to her. He just turned his back, climbed into the golf cart, and put his arm around my mother. "Let's go, Nancy," Dad said, his voice old and tired. "I don't want to watch this anymore." As Kevin drove us away, toward the castle gates that opened silently to admit us, I looked back one last time. James was walking toward the exit, maintaining a 5-foot distance from Josephine, who was being guided away by security, her cries drowned out by the sudden, booming announcement that the show was about to begin. The spire was quiet. It was a glass-enclosed balcony 80 feet above the park, air-conditioned and stocked with champagne and sparkling cider. We stood there, the 4 of us, Mom, Dad, Leo, and me, watching the first rockets streak into the sky. They exploded in bursts of gold and violet, illuminating the castle turrets below us. Leo was pressed against the glass, his eyes reflecting the explosions. "Mom, look, it's like we're inside the explosion." "I see it, baby," I said, stroking his hair. My parents were sitting on a plush sofa behind us. They weren't watching the show. They were holding hands, staring at the floor. I walked over and sat on the coffee table in front of them. "I'm sorry you had to find out like that," I said. My dad shook his head. Don't apologize, Nancy. You didn't do it. We did. You didn't do anything, Dad. We let it happen, Mom whispered. We always gave her what she wanted because she was difficult, and you were always so easy, Nancy. You never asked for anything. You just did your homework and went to work and took care of Leo. We took the path of least resistance with her, and we took you for granted. She's sick, Frank, Mom said to Dad. Stealing from us, lying to James. She's cut off, Dad said, his voice firm. I mean it this time. No more loans. No more covering the lease on that car. If James leaves her, she's going to have to figure it out. I'm done. He looked at me, his eyes wet. And I'm sorry we didn't wait for you at the tram. I should have told the driver to wait. I was just flustered. I let her bully me. It's okay, Dad, I said. We made it. You did, he smiled weakly. You really did. Who knew our Nancy ran this whole place? I just helped keep it standing. I smiled. When the finale ended, a blinding wash of white light that turned night into day, we took the private elevator down. David was waiting for us in the lobby. Show look okay from up there? He asked. It was perfect, David, I said. Thank you for everything you turned a nightmare into, well, something unforgettable. Hey, David shrugged. You saved me $1 million on that retrofit 3 years ago. A few fast passes and a fruit basket are the least I could do. He handed me a business card. Also, the VP of Engineering is looking for a new consultant for the West Coast expansion. I told him I knew someone who stays cool under pressure. Give him a call on Monday. I took the card. I will. We drove back to the hotel in a park limo. When we got to the lobby, Josephine and James were nowhere to be seen. The concierge told us that Mr. James had checked out early, taking his bags and leaving a separate key for his wife. Josephine was apparently in her room and had ordered room service to be charged to my father's card. Dad canceled the card right there at the front desk. She can pay for her own club sandwich, he muttered.